What's up, people? Just about to put the engine in this 300ZX right here. And one of the big things was the original turbo was seized up, so it basically had to get fully replaced. I was actually quoted $1,500 to rebuild it, so that was not going to happen, especially when you can buy a top of the line like Garrett for that much. So um, I just got one of like the cheaper CX Racing turbos. I'm just keeping this thing. I actually bumped it up to like 8 psi, just give it a little bit more pep. But I'm just gonna reuse a stock charge pipe. It shouldn't need an intercooler on a premium gas with just 8 psi. So uh, actually fitting it was a little bit of a challenge. There's a You can reuse pretty much all the stock parts, except for the downpipe and the exhaust back. But since the other turbo was completely toast anyways, and the exhaust was fairly rusted out on its own anyways, I just decided to just say screw it. This is like a cheaper CX Racing T3 T4 hybrid. I probably would have slapped the real Garrett on there, but kind of kind of out of budget at this point. And but other than that, I mean, it seems pretty decent. The only other thing was I couldn't find any Garrett's that came with an internal wastegate. I know all the cool kids use external these days, but I didn't feel like drilling and modifying all these manifolds, especially because I'm kind of time limited at this point. But some small modifications to actually get this to fit and basically like reuse all like stock parts and everything that I could. Was let's see, first of all, on the wastegate, the internal wastegate, the bracket it came with, all even all the way pushed up, you can see the original hole down there was too low, and I would have had to have bent that actuator arm too much. So on the originals, they actually had a bracket that held the wastegate out here and a longer arm to basically get it up as far as possible. Now, I'm sure you could either like custom make a bracket, but what I found you could do is just essentially make a template, just take like a piece of paper and like a pen and just, or a piece of cardboard, and basically just like drill out these areas here, or like mark it with a fine point pen. And then you can basically, this is the same original bowl hole, but basically rotate it up, drill a new hole for the arm, and then drill another new bowl hole here. And it pretty much brings it up as close as possible as I would like to have it to that, to the charge pipe without touching. And then you also have to take an angle grinder and just cut this ridge off. It's fairly solid still, so that little supporting ridge really didn't do much. But and then after that, all you have to do is just take your wastegate actuator arm and just bend it up slightly just to give it a nice little bit of clearance. Make sure it's not rubbing and like throwing off your opening pressure. Let's see. For that, Pass Power actually sells brand new rubber coupler pieces here. Luckily for me, so that's where that came from. It's kind of expensive. It's like almost $40 for a piece of rubber after shipping, but you kind of need it if you want to reuse a stock charge pipe. The oil lines and return line and all the fittings actually came from a company on, I think I just got it off eBay. It was actually called Mamba Tech. If you just look up like Mamba 300ZX Z31 turbo kit, this will probably come up. I think they have just the oil lines. I think I bought both the oil and water lines, but then I kind of ended up not using the water lines. Because the other turbo was completely toasted by the time I brought it to a shop and got that estimate. But for this to actually fit it, since the fittings are quite big, I actually have to bring it around the front, around this engine mount. It's not too big of a deal. The only problem is it can rub. I just have a piece of hose here right now. It should be fine with the heat shielding on the exhaust, since I mean, there's rubber couplers right here. And that's pretty much almost to the exact same stock spot it was. So that's not really a big deal. Heat wise, I just want to prevent that hose from rubbing on anything now, and I'll probably wrap this in some heat shielding or something, since it is fairly close to the manifold. There's no point in getting the oil hotter than it has to be. As for fitting the charge pipe, actually, since this turbo is a little bit bigger than the original, the original is like a tiny little baby turbo there. it actually sits up higher, and you kind of have to like tilt it back to bring it back in line with the intake manifold. I already had the intake manifold on, and like test fit this is basically lines up perfectly. Um, and all you have to do is, well, for what I did is I just took like a thin piece of sheet metal and basically just bent out a bracket that has to go there. Just put in a couple stainless bolts, no big deal. Holds it fairly strong. Pretty much like move the whole engine with that, so I don't think it's going to go anywhere over that 8 psi. And let's see, I think there's one other part. Sorry about that. Back with the redone part. I just had to go grab it out the parts bin. So to modify the actual like intake pipe here to work, we'll have to do some more custom bracket work again. But this initially comes with like a rubber piece on the inside, and it's like held in with a metal ring. You just take a pair of pliers, twist it, yank it out, it'll come right out. And there's a band that's actually spot welded at the bottom here, that essentially like clamps it on to the turbo inlet. And since this has a 3-inch inlet as opposed to the 2-inch inlet of the original Garrett T3 that's on there, what you can actually do is basically just take a Dremel, just grind out that spot weld to take the band off, and then I just used a pipe expander because these were kind of like crushed in a little bit from the original. Just take like an exhaust pipe expander, throw it in there, just crank it out a bit so it just opens them up a bit. And then you can actually fit a 3-inch coupler basically perfectly on it. So, going on here, sorry, this got hard with one hand. And then when you're fitting a 3-inch coupler onto the turbo, you can tell basically right there you can line it up with where the original bracket is. I'll actually probably get a piece of sheet metal, bend this bracket down a bit, and just make just a little tab that goes out just to hold this on a little bit more securely. But there you have it. You basically have the intake in the original position. Just shift it forward slightly a bit, not a big deal. You can just take the rubber coupler from the MAF and just cut it down a little bit, or just squeeze it on. I'm pretty sure it'll fit either way, but there you go. That's how you can basically mostly maintain a stock intake and exhaust system with a 300ZX turbo when you just want to replace the turbo with something cheaper or just better as a put for like a new Garrett. I do have the water line kit. If you wanted to fit a newer turbo with water inlets, you could 100% do that on here. This one's cheaper. Didn't really come with that. And as for the downpipe, this is actually just a cheap ass eBay downpipe I have for now, just to give me something easier to work with off the exhaust, and just to hold the O2 sensor for now, just so it has like a place to live. Just V-band. It was cheap. It was like, I think like $60 off eBay and stainless. So good enough for now. I don't know if that'll get replaced eventually, or if I'll integrate into a newer exhaust system. Kind of just depends. I mean, it's decent enough quality. It holds water. It doesn't leak or anything. So that's pretty much it, and that's how you can fit it. So if anybody has any questions for like how any of this stuff works or fits on, I can answer them. And yeah, this is the Hoovies Garage 300ZX from my previous videos. Finally about to get the engine back in, replace the leaky fuel lines so I don't die in a fire. New power steering lines, whole shebang. Finally got that motor mount off with minimal damage to the to the support there. It has a little bit because I had to end up drilling it from the back, but yeah, pretty much that's just about to be done. Pretty much all the rust is gone that I know of, so hopefully there's no more that I find. But yeah, so see you guys.